Hello and welcome to Scrapbooking Station. In this video it's a unique structure that's a version of a fold back. So we've got lots of layers, it's easy to put together, and plenty of fun embellishing. So I'm going to put the camera over my shoulder and we'll get started. Okay, to begin this video I'm going to start with a piece of single-sided cardstock. So I've got this great image that's going to be the inside of my card. On the outside it's just kind of blank white. So the first thing I want to do, this is a 5x7, so I want to put a vertical score or vertical line here at 2.5, and that's going to be the front, because in all fold backs you really don't see this back at all except on the back of your card. So the inside is going to become the outside. And so what the name kind of suggests is that I'm going to cut a frame out. Now when I position this and I put it through my die cutting machine, I only want to cut this outside portion, and so I've marked this rectangle in the center as well, and so I want to position that exactly on the lines. And the way I like to do it is to just have my top plate over to the score line, and that is going to give me pressure here and around, and this way I can cut out this frame because that's going to get folded back. While I'm at it, I might as well go ahead and make a piece that's going to go on top, and so I'm just going to cut another piece of cardstock at the same time. So let me do that and I'll be back. Okay, once you've cut out that edge, you just want to go ahead and score along your pencil line. There's actually a little impression here where that plate kind of pressed in, but you want to make sure you want to be on your pencil line and score back your frame. And this is a very simple, of course I created this piece using the same exact die, and that's going to get layered on that. And this is going to be the simplest of a fold back frame. And so if we were to situate, it'd be like so. But we're going to keep going because I have a set of kind of nested pieces. And so the first thing I did was take a coordinating piece of cardstock and I cut myself a nice little filigree frame. And so I am actually going to go and take this independently of my card base and go ahead and cut myself an aperture. Then I'm going to bring it back, flatten this out this way after attaching this, and cut out the center. Because I have, well, first off, I've got this really pretty paper, but then I've also got a topper that I want to use. So it's going to be this one, and I want to situate that inside the frame. So let me cut some of this stuff and then I'll be back. Okay, once I've reached this point, I went ahead and placed my focal inside here, and so there is still a little bit of a reveal because the image is up in here, and then the bottom portion has this great sentiment which is sort of hidden until you open the card. So lots of brilliant things. So first brilliant thing is I make the most out of very pretty pattern cardstock. Secondly, I make the most out of my topper because it shows inside and out. And now, let's talk about layering. This is actually really great for a die card because I've got, well, first off, 1, 2, 3 layers before I even get started embellishing. But if I move top and bottom, and then on top of this piece here, I've got 6 additional layers. So I'm going to add some die cuts, and I'm going to move this one up in here. I'm going to add another corner down in here. I've got some chain I want to go across, so I'm either going to move on top of here or on bottom, one or the other, and then we're going to take a look at this very dimensional, simply put together structure. Okay, that photo you just saw was before embellishments, and actually it was a pretty good looking card before I added all the additional dimensions, but so pretty and so dimensional and still very low profile because it's all just cardstock. Nothing's really raised up on foam squares, although it looks like I've got so many layers. So anyway, this is how it turned out, and then when I open it up, I ended up putting another sentiment here, happy birthday, so just a little tag to kind of edge off my chain here. So anyway, good first structure. So let me talk to you some of this stuff. So first off, the cardstock and the topper comes from Kanban. It's called Gentleman's Journal Collection. So I've got a ton of sentiments and images, and then also 12 by 12 cardstock. And it's really heavyweight, so it works out really well for this structure. The other thing are some dies, so I've got some tattered lace, the chain borders. Then I've got some generics that I've been picked up off of eBay. So that kind of filigree frame piece, my gear corner, and sentiment. Okay, I'm going to leave pictures of that and set up for the next couple projects. Okay, for this next project, I'm going to do everything exactly the same way. We're going to go with a different size. So this is a 6x6 finished. I've got another single-sided piece of cardstock, so it's got this great pattern. Again, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to score it. Well, let's go ahead and take this piece because I've already done the steps, but let's talk through it anyway. So I've scored it at 6 inches, and that's going to be my center score. And then I marked it at 3 inches, and then I got a different cutting die this time. So I've got this outside frame, and again, kind of positioning it, using the pattern on my cutting die, because that's just the easiest way to go, to have that center point, and then just put pressure here to cut that out. Now while I was at it, again, I went ahead and made the panel that was going to cover over the top, and I did that in a glitter paper. Then went ahead and used the interior piece, so another kind of filigree frame, to cut the black out, and it comes with a circle, so it cuts that circle out, so I had to find another die to go ahead and cut this little teeny weeny aperture. And then I have to give credit to my daughter, because when she saw this, she thought, this is a great place to put a spinner. So before overlaying this kind of top panel onto my card base, I went ahead and put the spinner piece. So let's go ahead, I finished it up. And so I kind of covered it with this really neat large pearl sort of heart shape. And didn't add any embellishments over on this side. And so when it opens up, I've got some netting and I've got some lace and then a sentiment kind of sticking up over that. So when it's closed, it's going to look like this. Of course, I'm going to do a coordinating envelope as well. So let me leave photos of that, and we'll look at this next card blank is what I'm going to use next. Okay, a quick second on those materials. And so the cutting die was a Tato cutting die from Create & Craft, and then it's another Kanban collection. This is Midnight Fiesta. So 12 by 12 cardstock, and then a collection of toppers. And I just used some generic circle dies to do the matting and the aperture. Now this is card blank. So this is cheapo card blank that I trimmed first off to size that I can work with. So I went with 4 by 6. And so again, I've got a set of nested frames this time. And so I did finish the card, but let's take a look at how this would be set up. So it's already scored at the halfway mark. So I've got that scored at 4 inches, and then I went ahead and again drew my line at 2 inches. And then notice that I continue to use cutting dies that either I don't have to mark to find the center. So I just matched up the points, put pressure here, then cut myself. In this case, I've got a pearlescent cardstock. And then once that was on my card, went ahead and cut my aperture. So again, I'm going to kind of layer up embellishments. And so I've got some die-cut buttons with my sentiment, and then a heart here. And we really haven't talked about what shows up on the other side, so I cut another heart to show up this way, and added a ribbon on this side, because chances are it's going to display open. And then, like all fold backs, if you want to put chunkier things over here on the right, because this is kind of the flat layer, and then you've got all this protection over here between this layer and your fold back frame. So I just added some buttons and pearls, and then another cutting die. So I will leave photos of that. Let me go ahead and talk about those materials. So the card blank came from Paper Wishes. It was like a cart stuffer, so they were like 10 cents for the envelope and card. Then I got a Create & Craft for my gown here, and then some layered stars, and some buttons, and that's a tonic set. And then my nested frames come off of eBay. Okay, so that's all single-sided cardstock, which is good if you can find it. But now I want to do a piece where I'm going to cover a card blank. So let me leave photos of that, and then I'll be back. So for this last project, I'm going to have a 5 by 6.5, so 5 inches by 6.5 inch tall. And what I want to do is layer my paper. So I've got a pattern that can come across. And I'm going to layer my paper on the inside of my card because, again, we're going to fold it back so everything's going to show up on the outside. So when I cut it, I'm going to cut it in sections. So it's going to be about 4 7/8 for this section. And I know I'm going to have to fold something back here. And so I'm going to split the front into 2 equal portions. So again, I'm going to go ahead and mark it on this side. And actually, I'll be back after I cut that and put it on the inside of my card, and then we'll take a look at how to cut the front. Okay, I decided to come back at this point. So I did cut my panels, and if you can use a single-sided piece of cardstock, certainly better for your base card, because now I kind of have to deal with this stripe here. I don't know, we're going to see when it's finished. Because I did, once again, cut the outside of my frame. Went a little deeper than I wanted to, but this is a 6.5 inch card, so I have to use my bigger cutting machine, so I have less control than on my big shot. So that's something to keep in mind also. Then inside I use, this is a nested tonic die, rectangles, and so I just cut a pattern piece of paper before cutting my aperture. So I used a snowflake die. Now when I attach this, hopefully it'll pop right off, because what I used was some double-sided temporary dots. Okay, so that's going to come off nicely, because what I want to do now is add a piece of snowfall acetate underneath there and then plop this back on. So let me just look at the kind of finished base structure before embellishments. So it's going to be like this. Of course, that's going to be covered and open like so. So let me get those embellishments on here, and then I'll be back with the finished piece. So to finish out this card, again, I went with those kind of die-cut corners. So instead of gears like I used in the first card, it just works really well with this particular card design, because it kind of hangs over this frame, folded over frame. And then, of course, you've got the inside. And the other thing I did is I took the piece that I cut out of here, so my aperture snowflake, popped it up here with a dazzle sticker. And then on the inside, I have a die-cut ornament with my Merry Christmas, and then just a little bit of decorations and a bow. So turned out really nice. And the die cuts are tonic, the rectangles, so they're essential rectangles. And then I've got several that I got off of eBay to finish out the decorations. And the paper comes from Paper Wishes. Okay, what I wanted to do, since I mentioned it earlier, is create a fold back that doesn't have an aperture. And so let me flip this over, because I'm going to use a circle this time. So I'm only going to cut it halfway into my card base. So I used a circle and then just topped it. And so in this case, when I flip, I have to figure out something to stick over here. And actually this works pretty good, because now I've got a place to handwrite a message if I want to. So that's pretty neat. A couple things to think about. The smaller I make this in proportion to my card, the less dramatic this fold back is going to be. It almost just looks like a fold back with a topper, more or less, but you still have the flip. And so these materials are, well, all the die cuts come from eBay, except for maybe these little nested circles. And then I'm going to embellish with some daisies and leave photos of that. And the paper is from Paper Boutique, and it's called Sunflower Song. And then I had to do a hunky-dory piece, but let me show you something, because I kind of messed it up. Because when I think of single-sided cardstock, I immediately think adorable scoreable. And yeah, adorable scoreable would work really well. So when I flip this over, I hope what you're going to notice is, first thing, instead of cutting the outside like I should have, I cut into the card. And what happens is you've got a fold back. It's no longer a fold back frame. I did cut an aperture, but it doesn't flip. So on the inside, when it's standing, and you're going to see that, the same thing that's on the front of your card is going to be on the inside left. Anyway, I sure hope you give the structure a try. It's different, it's pretty, and certainly makes use of your die cuts. And I think it's a great design for your single-sided cardstock or panel paper. Anyway, thank you for watching.